The call from Forbes came on a Tuesday while I was washing dishes in my one-bedroom apartment in Boston. I just turned 52 the week before, alone with a grocery store cake because my kids were too busy to visit and my ex-husband was celebrating with his 28-year-old new wife. Dr. Patricia Santos, this is Michelle from Forbes. We'd like to feature your company in our edition on female entrepreneurs revolutionizing healthcare technology. Would you be available for an interview and photo shoot next week? I dropped the plate I was washing. It clattered loudly in the sink. Forbes, are you sure you have the right person? Michelle laughed. Absolutely sure. Your company, HealthBridge, is transforming how primary care physicians communicate with specialists. Your assisted diagnostic algorithms are saving lives. And you did all of this after 50. That's exactly the story we want to tell. After 50. The words echoed in my head alongside the other words my family had said over the past 3 years. Mom, you're too old to start a business. Pat, no one's going to invest in a 49-year-old woman with no tech experience. You should be thinking about retirement, not startups. This is pathetic. You're having a midlife crisis. 3 years earlier, I'd been an ordinary family practice doctor in an ordinary clinic, frustrated by a problem I saw every day. Patients with complex conditions who needed specialists, but the referral processes were so slow and inefficient that by the time they got appointments, their conditions had significantly worsened. I'd tried to improve the system from within, proposed changes, created protocols, begged for better technological tools. Nothing worked. The system was old, bureaucratic, resistant to change. If I were younger, I told my colleague Dr. Martinez, I'd build an app to solve this. Why do you need to be younger? He'd asked. You understand the problem better than any 25-year-old ever would. You have 30 years of medical experience. Build the app. I'm 49, Robert. I don't know anything about coding or startups So learn. Or find someone who does. But Pat, you've been complaining about this problem for a decade. Either you do something about it, or accept that you'll complain for the rest of your career. The truth hurt, but it also awakened something in me. A spark of possibility I'd been sure had died years ago, suffocated by an unhappy marriage, ungrateful children, and the resignation of a life that hadn't turned out as planned. So I did something completely insane. I enrolled in an online basic programming course. At 49, while my colleagues were planning retirement, I was learning Python and app development. My family found it hilarious. Mum, you can barely use your iPhone, my son David had laughed when I told him. And now you're going to build an app? Do you know how many people try this and fail? I know it's difficult, but it's more than difficult. It's impossible, especially at your age. Tech is a young person's game. No one's going to take a 49-year-old woman seriously in that world. My daughter Lauren had been even more direct. Mum, this is embarrassing. You're having a midlife crisis. Buy a sports car like normal people. Don't try to reinvent yourself as some kind of female Mark Zuckerberg. My ex-husband Richard, whom I divorced 2 years earlier after 25 years of unhappy marriage, had been cruelly pragmatic. Pat, you've always been a dreamer, always thinking you're going to change the world. But you're a 49-year-old family doctor. Accept it. Do your job, plan your retirement, stop chasing fantasies that'll leave you broke and embarrassed. But I didn't stop. I learned to code, slowly, painfully, spending nights and weekends struggling with concepts that probably would have been easy for a 25-year-old, but were challenging for my middle-aged brain that hadn't learned a new technical skill in decades. And when I realized I'd never be a good enough programmer to build what I envisioned, I found a young developer fresh out of college named Jake, who believed in my vision and agreed to be a co-founder in exchange for equity. Together, we built HealthBridge, a platform that connected primary care doctors with specialists in real time, used AI to suggest diagnoses based on symptoms and patient history, and simplified the entire referral process I'd struggled with for decades. The first 2 years were brutal. I worked my medical job full-time during the day and built the company at night and on weekends. I spent my savings, $80,000, on development and legal costs. I was rejected by 47 investors who said variations of the same thing. We love the product, but you have no tech experience and you're too old for this market. My family continued mocking me. At family dinners, David would ask sarcastically, "So, Mum, are you a billionaire yet?" Lauren would tell cousins about my midlife tech crisis. Richard, now married to a woman 20 years younger, used my startup as an example of why I got divorced. Pat never understood reality. But then, 6 months ago, everything changed. An article in the New England Journal of Medicine mentioned HealthBridge as an example of how technology was improving primary care. That article led to a presentation at a medical conference, which led to doctors actually starting to use the platform, which led to data showing we were reducing diagnostic times by 60% and potentially saving lives by catching serious conditions earlier. And that led to investor interest, real interest this time, not from those who'd rejected me, but from bigger investors who understood healthcare and saw what we were building. 3 months ago, we closed a $15 million Series A round. 2 months ago, we were featured on TechCrunch. 1 month ago, hospitals in 12 states were using our platform. And now, Forbes was calling. They wanted to put me on the cover of their Women Transforming Healthcare issue. I didn't tell my family about the Forbes feature. I let them find out the same way everyone else would when the magazine hit newsstands. The photo shoot was surreal. Professional hair and makeup, a photographer who made me feel like I actually looked good at 52, styling that made me look successful and confident rather than like someone having a midlife crisis. "You're going to inspire so many women," Michelle told me during the interview. "Women who think it's too late to start over, women who've been told they're too old. You're proof that age is just a number when you have vision and determination." I had a lot of people tell me I was too old, I admitted, including my own children. How did you push past that? I thought about it. I realized that the only person who needed to believe I could do it was me. Everyone else's doubt was their problem, not mine. And honestly, being older was an advantage. I understood the problem deeply. I had credibility with doctors because I was one of them. I had patience and perspective that younger entrepreneurs might not have. My age wasn't a liability. It was my secret weapon. The magazine came out on a Wednesday. I bought 3 copies from the newsstand near my apartment, staring at my own face on the cover. Dr. Patricia Santos, 52, the family doctor who became a tech disruptor. My phone started buzzing immediately. Texts, calls, emails, friends congratulating me. Colleagues from medical school saying they'd always known I'd do something important. Former patients telling me how proud they were. And then the call from David. "Mum, I just saw, I'm at a coffee shop and you're on the cover of Forbes. Is this real?" "It's real." A long pause. "Mum, I don't know what to say. This is incredible. Your company is valued at how much?" $75 million after our Series A. We're projecting $200 million in revenue next year. 200 million? Mom, I had no idea you'd built something so successful. Why didn't you tell us? I tried to tell you. 3 years ago when I started. 2 years ago when I got my first hospital client. A year ago when TechCrunch featured us. But you were too busy laughing at my midlife crisis to actually listen. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think someone your age could break into tech. Someone my age. David, I'm 52, not 82, and my age was an advantage, not a disadvantage. I just needed people to see that. You never did. Lauren called next, crying. Mum, I just saw the magazine. Oh my God. You're on the cover of Forbes. You're a tech CEO. How did this happen? The same way I told you it would happen. I learned to code. I built a product. I solved a real problem. I worked harder than I've ever worked in my life. None of that required being 25. It just required being determined. I'm so sorry for what I said about the midlife crisis, about being embarrassed. Mum, I'm proud of you. So proud. Thank you. But Lauren, I didn't do this to make you proud. I did it because I saw a problem that was killing people, and I refused to accept that I was too old to fix it. My ex-husband didn't call, but he sent an email. Saw the Forbes cover. Congratulations. I was wrong about you, about your potential. I'm sorry I couldn't see what you were capable of. I didn't respond. His opinion, his approval, his apology, none of it mattered anymore. I'd built something extraordinary without him, without my children's support, without anyone who was supposed to believe in me, actually believing. Forbes cover led to more press. NPR interviewed me about age discrimination in tech. The Wall Street Journal did a feature on second act entrepreneurs. Harvard Business School asked me to speak about my journey. And everywhere I went, women approached me, women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, telling me they'd been inspired, that they'd thought it was too late to start over, that they'd been told they were too old, that seeing someone like them succeed had given them courage to try. You gave me permission to be ambitious again, one woman told me after a speaking engagement. I'm 58. I thought that part of my life was over, but if you could start a tech company at 49, maybe I can start my consulting firm. You absolutely can, I told her. Don't let anyone tell you it's too late. The only person who gets to decide what you're capable of is you. 6 months after the Forbes cover, my family gathered for Thanksgiving. It was the first time we'd all been together since the magazine came out. David stood up to make a toast. I want to say something to Mom. 3 years ago, you told us you were starting a tech company. And we laughed. We told you that you were too old, that it was impossible, that you were having a crisis. We were wrong about everything. He raised his glass. You weren't too old. You were exactly the right age, old enough to understand the problem deeply, young enough to have the energy to solve it. You weren't having a crisis. You were having a breakthrough, and the only people in crisis were us, because we couldn't see your vision, Lauren added. Mum, you taught us something important, that it's never too late to start over. That age is just a number. That determination matters more than anyone's expectations. We're sorry we didn't see it sooner, but we see it now. I looked at my children, my ex-husband, who'd come with his young wife, both looking uncomfortable, and my extended family, who'd all doubted me. Thank you, but I need you to understand something. I didn't build HealthBridge to prove you wrong. I built it because patients were suffering from an inefficient system, and I knew I could fix it. Your doubt was painful. It made the journey harder. But it also made me more determined. So in a weird way, thank you for not believing in me. It made proving myself to myself even more satisfying. Richard spoke up. Pat, I was wrong about you, about your dreams. I spent 25 years telling you to be realistic, to accept your limitations. But you didn't have limitations. You just had a husband who couldn't see your potential. You're right about that, I said. But Richard, I don't need you to see my potential now. I needed you to see it when we were married. When I was dreaming out loud and you were telling me to be quiet. The time to believe in me was then, not now that I'm successful. My family said I was too old to start over. They mocked my tech dreams. They called it a midlife crisis. They told me to accept my limitations and plan for retirement. Then I appeared on the cover of Forbes. Then my company was valued at $75 million. Then hospitals across the country started using my technology to save lives. And they learned what I'd known all along, that age is just a number when you have vision, determination, and the courage to ignore everyone who tells you it's too late. I was 49 when I started learning to code, 50 when I launched my company, 52 when I made the cover of Forbes, and I was just getting started, because the best part about starting over at 50, you have decades of experience, wisdom, and perspective that 25-year-olds can't possibly have. You know what matters. You know how to solve real problems. You know who you are. You're not too old. You're exactly the right age. And anyone who says otherwise is just afraid of what you might accomplish if you refuse to accept their limitations. My family said I was too old. Forbes disagreed. And so did the millions of patients whose lives were being saved by technology built by a 49-year-old midlife crisis. Turns out the crisis wasn't mine. It was theirs. Their crisis of imagination, their inability to see that sometimes the most revolutionary things are built by people who refuse to believe it was too late. I was 52, on the cover of Forbes, running a company that was changing healthcare, and I was proof that it's never ever too late to start over.